Hi there, welcome to my channel, crewvn.com.
So, the image and the accompanying text here show detailed diagrams and terminology related to how a ship's hull is constructed, especially for a steel-hulled ship, which is probably military or industrial, judging by the terms used. Now, let's go over some of the key terms and components that are shown in the diagram. First, there's the hull, or than chin in Vietnamese. That's basically the main body or structure of the ship. Then we have the superstructure, called dhuông tang. This refers to the part of the ship that's above the main deck, including things like the bridge and cabins. Next up is the mast, or cot. This is a vertical structure that's used for supporting sails, antennas, or other equipment. And of course, there's the smokestack, or ong khoi, which is the chimney or funnel used for releasing smoke from the ship's engines. Moving on, we have the after-bottom block, or phan joan dai vung duoi. This is part of the lower section of the hull, usually referring to the rear part. Finally, there's the engine room bottom at the engine bed, or phan joan dai tai lo mai, which is the lower section of the engine room. So, first up, we have the boiler room bottom block. This is basically the bottom section of the boiler room. And then there's the fore-bottom block, which is the front part of the bottom block of the ship. Next, let's talk about the engine room portside shell block. That's the side section of the engine room shell. Also, we have the wing tank in the boiler room portside block, which refers to those additional tank structures along the side of the ship. Moving on, there's the fore on lower deck block, meaning the front part of the lower deck block. Finally, the shaft tube. Well, that's a tube that encases the ship's propeller shaft. The bearing foundation, or bi jo truk, is basically a foundation for the bearings that support the propeller shaft. And then the vertical keel, known as tam dok song chin, is a vertical structural element that provides the ship with, some additional strength. The engine girder, or zong dok mai, consists of structural beams that support the engine compartment. Also, the intercoaster girder, called song dai dan dok, is a supporting structural beam. The thrust block foundation, or bi jo truk luk jai, is the foundation that supports the thrust block of the ship's engine. Next, the main engine foundation, or bi mai chin, serves as the foundation for the main engine. And finally, the engine foundation, or bi mai bi iu, is the foundation for auxiliary machinery. So, let's talk about the rider plate, or tam mat. This is a type of plate that's used to reinforce specific areas of the ship, giving extra strength where it's really needed. Then there's the side stringer, also known as dai lon mep boom. It's a long reinforcement running along the side of the hull, and it really helps maintain the hull's shape and integrity. Moving on, the watertight bulkhead, or vach kin nuok, is pretty important. These bulkheads separate compartments within the ship, which helps prevent flooding from spreading if there's a breach. And then we have the shell plate, or ton man. This plate forms the outer shell of the ship, providing protection and structure to the entire vessel. Next up is the feed water heater support, or bi jo thiet bi jun nuok. These supports hold equipment that heats water for the ship's engine, which is crucial for efficient operation. Finally, let's not forget the frame, or suon thuong. The frame is the backbone of the ship, supporting the overall structure and ensuring everything stays in place, even in rough conditions. The bulkhead recess, or hom vach, refers to the space or compartment that's formed by bulkheads inside the ship. And the side girder, or swan khoi, are those structural supports that that run along the sides of the hull. The web frame, or swan quang, are frames that are used to reinforce the internal compartments of the ship. Meanwhile, the deck girder, or exar bung, are those structural beams that support the deck. The beam, or xangang bung, is a horizontal beam that runs across the ship's width. The upper deck, or bung train, is the top deck of the ship, where, the main structures are usually located. And the lower deck, or bung duoi, is, the lower deck, typically found below the main deck. The floor, or san, is the floor structure of the ship's internal areas. These components are really essential to understanding how different parts of the ship's framework, engine and interior are constructed. They also highlight specific areas related to watertightness, the hull, the engine room, and of course, structural reinforcements.